Okay, there are some times when you need to simplify complex numbers and write them in standard form. So the big thing you need to remember is that when you factor out a negative or a square root of -1, that's going to be an I, and you can write that number in standard form. So if we want to simplify these two problems here, then what we need to do is we need to get rid of our radicals first, or get rid of the negatives out of a radical first. So we're going to bring out an I times square root of 80 plus I radical 45. And at this point, if the two numbers underneath the radical, called the radicand, were the exact same, then you'd be able to add these together. But they're not, so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to simplify what's underneath. So if you take the radical 80, well, that can break down into a square root of 16 times square root of 5. What I do is I always break them down into the biggest perfect square that goes into each of those numbers. So perfect square is like 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, on and on and on. For 45, you get a square root of 9 times a square root of 5. So this 16 now becomes a 4, so you get a 4 times I radical 5, and then we also get the square root of 9 becomes a 3, so you're going to get a 3I radical 5. Now, if you notice, these two numbers underneath the radical are the same number. So since those are the same, you can combine these, you can say 7I radical 5. And that's going to be your solution for part A. Now part B is a little different. We do have to write this out twice because of this 2. So that means you're going to have a 4 minus square root of -2 times a 4 minus square root of -2. And when you simplify this, the first thing you have to do before you start foiling is you need to take the I out of here. Because if you don't, then you're not going to have an answer, which in work out correctly. So you need to rewrite this as 4 minus I radical 2, and then 4 minus I radical 2 here. So now we can FOIL. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times a negative I radical 2 is a 4I radical 2. Same thing here. Negative I radical 2 times 4 gives us a negative 4I radical 2. Negative times negative is going to give us a positive. I times I is I squared. And then that is going to be square root of 2 times square root of 2 is just 2. So what we can do is we can combine, well actually before that, let's simplify this I squared. So if you have an I squared, that becomes a -1. So this cancels, and makes this positive 2, makes it a negative instead. So what we really get is a 16 minus 2, which is 14, minus 8I radical 2. So the big thing here for B, and anytime you're going to be multiplying, you must simplify, or you must bring this negative out first, because otherwise you're going to end up without an I in your answer. So be careful when you're doing your multiplying.